All right, let's go ahead and jump back into another exercise. In the lecture portion, we were talking about EXT plugins. Again, EXT plugins were kind of, how do I say this? They were something that, though we discouraged people from using it. It was kind of like, it had a scarlet letter, as we would say. It was useful in very specific situations, but most of the time, the customizations that we need did not call for an EXT plugins. High risk, kind of minimal reward in certain situations. Again, that's not to say that EXT plugins were completely useless, but more so used with caution kind of thing. So coming into the 7.1 world, Liferay 7.1, we have different ways of implementing the same functionalities as EXT plugins without even creating EXT plugins. So this takes a little bit of an investigation, right? We're gonna have to do a little bit of digging in order to find, what is it that I'm able to do or implement in the 7.1 world that will achieve the same functionality as what I had to do in 6.2 with an EXT plugin. And so one of the examples that we're gonna give here is modifying the menu. Back in the day, in order to modify the menu on the left-hand side of Liferay, or I guess in the drop-downs of Liferay back in 6.2, you had to use an EXT plugin. Let me jump in here and we'll take a quick peek at what we're talking about. So this menu here on the left-hand side, if you wanted to remove specific panels or specific sections, we had to create an EXT plugin in order to make that happen. Luckily for us here in Liferay 7.1, thanks in part to OSGI, we no longer need an EXT plugin in order to achieve that functionality. Instead, what we have to do is we need to turn off a specific component. So let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to head back over to Liferay Developer Studio, and I have my GoGo shell right here, this terminal window. You can always telnet into it. Telnet localhost 113.1.1 is the default. But here we are already in the GoGo shell. What we have to do is we need to find the specific component that is being used to, we need to find the specific component whose functionality is to display that specific portion of the menu. So this takes a little bit of digging. We're going to do a little bit of cheating using knowledge that we already have. So scr::list, this is basically just saying, hey, list all of my components. We're going to pipe that, and then we're going to search or to grep for one specific component, user organizations, screen, navigation, entry. I typoed that, so let me try that again. Right, one of the disadvantages of using this inline is that if you typo, you can't backspace or delete. So there's this little icon right here, right, which will allow us to have a little window here, allows us to type in that window. So you can backspace in the input field that I just clicked on, so that if we do typo, we have the opportunity to correct it. There we go. So this is the component that's used over on the left-hand side. We're going to be disabling this component, and by doing so, what this will do is remove a portion within the control panel, or the menu, I should say. So to disable this, I'm going to use scr::disable. And then we're going to be disabling this specific component. If you want to copy and paste it from the terminal there, feel free to do so, right? Save yourself a little bit of typing. You can also pull from the exercises on the right-hand side as well. So we got that disabled. Let's head back into our Liferay instance in our browser. We're going to go into the control panel, followed by users, and then users and organizations. So we'll wait for that to load, looking at that blue line that streaks across from the left to the right. Going to click into a specific user. Going to click into the test user. That's the only one we have here. And we're just going to wait for it to load. Now in the general section, what used to be there by default was a section for the organizations. We'll see here in this perspective that it is no longer there. So this is one way, or a way, in which we're able to modify something that ext plugins used to modify. And ext plugins provided a lot of different functionality. Here in the new 7.1, Liferay 7.1, we have to figure out what are the differences, how can we implement the same thing in a different way. So this is one of them, picking specific components who provides a specific functionality and then disabling them so they no longer provide that specific functionality. If we wanted to take this part one step further, what we would have to do is we would take the component that we have just disabled and then blacklist it. So that way Liferay recognizes, hey, you want this component kind of disabled for good. So that way it doesn't kind of turn back on. So let's go ahead and walk through that. So we're still here in the control panel, heading down here to configuration. And then from configuration, we're going to be selecting system settings. So system settings. Now that we're here in system settings, the next place we're going to be going to is module container. So scrolling down, we're looking for module container, and then we're going to select it. Right. Now that we're here, we're going to be pasting the fully qualified name of the component that we just turned off. If you copy and paste it, it might still be within your clipboard, so you can just paste it right there within the blacklist section. We want to do components before I get too ahead of myself. We want component rather than bundle. So I'm here in component, I'm going to paste, all right, and then we're going to save. So paste and then save. Cool. Our request has completed successfully. That's good. Go ahead and click out of that. And then the next part is optional, so I'm not going to walk through it explicitly, but you can also export this the setting that we just set. What this allows us to do is migrate this property or this configuration from one place to another, just so that things are easier to back things up. That's what I was trying to say. It's a lot easier to back things up. Now there might be some situations, very few and far between, but there might be some situations in which we still want to use an ext plugin. Again, Liferay is doing its best to remove the need for ext plugins, but maybe there might still be some here and there. So we're going to walk through a simple example here of creating an ext plugin within Liferay. You probably have done this before if you've created an ext plugin. So let's walk through it just in case. So we're going to head up here to File, head down here to New, and then from New, we're going to be selecting Liferay Plugin Project. So File, New, followed by Liferay Plugin Project. We need to give this project a name. This is going to be Jake's, need the K there, Jake's-ext. Need a display name, right? So something that looks a little bit better. This will be Jake's with a capital J, and then ext with a capital E. Plugin type or build type is going to be Ant. Plugin type is going to be ext. All right, from here, let's just go ahead and click Finish and let Liferay create the ext plugin. It's going to ask us to open a new perspective. So let's go ahead and click Open Perspective. What this does is it gives us different tabs that's going to help us with the creation of our ext plugin. Now the ext plugin did create a couple of files for sample code. In this situation here, we could have removed the sample code from the get-go, but that's all right. Let's go ahead and do this manually. We're going to expand the Jake's ext. We're going to go to doc-root webinf ext. Let's see if I can find it here. Doc-root webinf and then ext web. So ext web will reveal another doc-root webinf, and then we're going to see a couple files here. What we're going to be doing with this ext plugin is we're going to be modifying the timeout of Liferay. By default, Liferay will sign you out after you've been inactive for 30 minutes. What we're going to do in our example is we're going to time out in 15 minutes instead. So let's go ahead, jump right into that. We're going to first do a little bit of cleanup here, and we're going to remove the XML files that are no longer needed. The only XML file that we do need is going to be our portal ext.xml. So Liferay portlet, we're going to remove all 4 of those. Okay, just keeping the web.xml. It's going to say, am I sure? I'm going to go ahead and click OK. All right, now that we have the web.xml, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be pulling from our exercises folder. I'm going to click on my filing cabinet here. I'm going to head back over to my exercises folder. So Liferay DXP upgrade, exercise source, chapter 3, folder number 3, and we're down here in 342. Okay, opening up the web.xml, we're going to copy the contents here. We're going to paste it over in the web.xml within our ext plugin. Okay, so web.xml, go ahead and highlight everything and then paste the web.xml here. All right, now that we have that all taken care of, the last part here is to just deploy. So to deploy the ext plugin, I'm going to right click the Jake's ext, head down to Liferay towards the bottom, SDK, and then deploy. Now a deploy does require the server to restart. So this is one of the disadvantages of an ext plugin. And ext plugins are very invasive. Once it deploys, it overrides what's there, and to get things back is a little bit troublesome. So to test this on your own, what you're going to want to do is restart your Liferay server. You're going to stay idle for 15 minutes, and then you should be signed out. So go ahead and test that on your own. Right? I want to again thank you for sticking with me to the end of this video, a shorter video this time around, and I will see you in the next video.